All right, let's get into it. We're going to talk about an ancient Greek philosophy that honestly might be the perfect antidote for our crazy, chaotic modern world. It's called Pyrrhonism, and it's all about the unbelievable power of just admitting you don't know.
I mean, really think about it. From what's happening in global politics to the latest bit of online drama, you're always expected to have a take, to pick a side, to know. It's absolutely exhausting, right? This constant pressure to be certain about everything.
Well, what if I told you there's an entire philosophy specifically designed to free you from that pressure? A whole way of thinking that finds peace not in having the right answers, but in not needing to have them at all.
So the Pyrrhonists believed the source of all this modern stress, all this anxiety, comes down to one thing. They had a word for it: dogma. And in their story, this is the real villain. A dogma isn't just, a casual belief. It's when you claim to have found the absolute, capital T, truth, especially about stuff you can't even see or prove. The Pyrrhonists basically said that clinging to these dogmas is exactly what causes all our anxiety, all our arguments, and all our inner turmoil.
So, what was their solution? Well, they came up with this pretty radical school of thought. It was a system, a method for taking apart these dogmatic beliefs piece by piece in order to reach this incredible state of mental peace.
Now, the philosophy itself gets its name from a guy named Pyrrho, but it was another philosopher, Anaximenes, who really laid it all out. He's the one who essentially drew the map, creating a practical guide that other people could actually use to find that peace of mind. And this right here is the core practice. The Greek word for it is epike. It's this conscious choice you make to just step back from an argument. You don't say it's true, but you also don't say it's false. You just hit the pause button on judgment. And that brings us to the why. What's the point of all this? Well, the goal isn't just to be difficult or to win an argument. The whole point is to achieve ataraxia. It's this incredible state of calm, this freedom from worry that happens when you finally let go of that desperate need to have all the answers. Okay, so how do you actually do it? How do you suspend judgment when every single instinct in your body is screaming at you to decide one way or the other? Well, lucky for us, the Pyrrhonists developed a very specific set of mental tools to get the job done. These are known as Agrippa's 5 modes, and they're like a Swiss Army knife for taking apart any argument that claims to be certain. First, you notice the dissent. Smart people disagree on literally everything. Then you spot the infinite regress. Any proof you give needs its own proof, which needs a proof, and on forever. You start seeing how everything is relative, how arguments just start from a wild assumption, or how they become circular, using the conclusion to prove itself. And this isn't just some ancient, dusty idea. The philosopher Victor Brochard said these modes are basically irresistible. Once you learn to see them, you start seeing them everywhere. And pretty soon, the whole idea of being totally certain about something starts to feel, well, a little shaky.
Which, of course, brings us to the big, obvious question, the one everyone asks when they first hear about this stuff.
Right? How do you function? How do you decide what to have for lunch, or whether it's safe to cross the street? If you don't actually believe anything is true, doesn't that just leave you totally paralyzed? So the Pyrrhonists had this just brilliant answer. They said you don't live based on dogmatic beliefs, you live based on appearances. You act on 4 things. You trust your natural senses, you take care of your body's needs like hunger and thirst, you generally follow the local customs and laws so you don't get in trouble, and you use the skills you've been taught. You can eat a piece of bread because you feel hungry and it appears nourishing, all without needing to have a deeply held philosophical belief about the ultimate nature of bread. It's practical. And this very unique approach is what made Pyrrhonism so different from other kinds of skepticism, and its influence has popped up again and again throughout history. Here's a really important distinction to make. There were other skeptics back then, the academic skeptics, but they made a claim of their own. They said, knowledge is impossible. A true Pyrrhonist would hear that and say, whoa, wait a minute, that's just another dogma. The Pyrrhonist suspends judgment even on the possibility of knowledge itself. Nicodemus had this great line where he called the academics just Stoics fighting against Stoics, just another group of dogmatic thinkers arguing with each other. So after kind of fading out for a while, Pyrrhonism had this huge comeback during the Renaissance. And that was largely thanks to the French writer Michel de Montaigne. He just fell in love with this way of thinking. He found it incredibly freeing. He even adopted the symbol of a perfectly balanced scale to represent that idea of suspending judgment. This became his personal motto, que sais-je? What do I know?
And see, that's not a statement of failure like, oh, I don't know anything. It's an open question. It's a posture of intellectual humility that keeps your mind open and free.
So I guess that's the real takeaway here. We live in a world that is constantly screaming at us to be certain, to be right, to pick a side and never waver. But maybe, just maybe, the most powerful and the most peaceful thing you can do is to just take a breath, lean into that uncertainty, and find the courage to say, I don't know. What could that change for you?